Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hardwood Nation podcast with your boy CL Anthony and my main man Bryce Ward. Bryce, what is going on?
Oh, same old. Just enjoying this little cold front we got here in Florida. It's nice. It doesn't happen too often. So,
It feels great, doesn't it?
yeah, if you work out in the heat like I do sometimes, you really appreciate it.
So we got some things we're going to get into today, Bryce. Um, if I was to tell you that as of right now, the Sacramento Kings are the hottest team in the Western Conference, how would you feel about
Surprised, I think, as a lot of people
it?
are.
Well, they're on a 5-game winning streak right now. Now, in the offseason, I did say that I thought Sacramento would kind of challenge for a playoff spot. So I'm a little proud of them right now because they are playing well. They are without, I believe, right now. I don't think De'Aaron Fox has played too much lately. But no, it's either him or the rookie that's out. Forgive me. But Lord Arvidas Sabonis, guys, it's Sunday. Forgive me. The Monty Sabonis has actually caught fire and stopped fouling out and is playing some really good basketball. So, yeah, kudos to the Sacramento Kings. How big of a threat do you think they could be in the West moving forward?
I think they could clip any of the upcoming teams that have been gaining momentum the last couple years. Like maybe depending on the kind of momentum they have and how healthy they are, the Timberwolves could get clipped. New Orleans might not be as sure of let me get in the playoffs as we thought. Like they look good, but there's so much competition. Phoenix, for as little as we believe in their championship aspirations, they're gonna be a problem all season long in the regular season. I suspect Golden State to kind of gain some momentum. Something's odd there, but I don't think that'll be the case all season. I think they're too good of a team for that to be the case. So I think Sacramento could cause some problems for some teams. And if they keep this kind of momentum up, not just the play-in, but they could knock someone out of the regular, just the top six. I think Minnesota is going to fall off more, or going to continue to have problems, and they were just in the play-in spot last year, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so any team that was like barely hanging on or coming up and gaining momentum, if they're not really poised this season, Sacramento could leap them because Sacramento's talented. They're just looking for the right the right time together, the right coaching, like all these things coming together. It might be this year for Sacramento. So I think they could leap some teams this year if they're not if the West isn't careful.
Yeah, they are one of the highest scoring teams in the league this season. I just put up the box score for the last game. De'Aaron Fox did play. I know he missed a couple of games with that ankle. But just looking at this last game, I mean, he went for 28 points, shooting 11 of 15 from the field. Now that he has someone like Sabonis who can draw attention, his shots are going to be more open. You still have the veteran Harrison Barnes there. And they got Kevin Huerter from Atlanta. He's a knockdown three-point shooter. Now, he was coming off the bench in Atlanta. He's starting right now for Sacramento. Even though his last game wasn't that great, he was only 1 of 5 from the three-point range, but he also had 6 assists, which is huge for him. So they have some weapons on that team. Their rookie's out. Keegan Murray, that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, who's been playing well. But that Huerta guy, he was kind of catching fire in the playoffs for Atlanta last year. So I think he was kind of like showing off, and now he's getting more of an opportunity.
Right, right.
Can you see in the recent games if like who they've played of real I guess substance? Like I know they blew Brooklyn out, but I mean I don't consider Brooklyn top tier, so I know we'll get into that later.
Their last game was against San Antonio. I know they've beaten the Lakers, and I believe there's another contender in there that they've beaten. I can't pull that up exactly right now, but I believe there's another contending team they've beaten, and I think they did give Golden State a little run for their money, so that might be what I'm thinking about. But we can touch on Golden State a little later. But no, the Kings are fun to watch. I have watched a little bit of their games only because of fantasy purposes, of course. I have watched their games, But yeah, Sacramento is really, really, really on fire. They're not the hottest team in the NBA. That goes to Boston right now with 9 straight wins. But we'll give Sacramento some love here. We expected Boston to be good. No one really expected the Kings to be good. So for them to be, look, their last 10 games, they're 8-2. And like I said, they're on a 5-game winning streak. So yeah, kudos to Sacramento for playing out of their minds right now. And also with their new head coach, who was recently an assistant with Golden State, Mike Brown. Kudos to him because he's always been a decent coach. He didn't have the best reputation in Cleveland, of course, and then they won a championship after he was let go. But Mike Brown's been around the NBA for a very, very long time. So kudos to him because it looks like they're turning things around in Sacramento.
If they keep this up, he could win like Coach of the Year or something. I could see.
It's quite possible. Yeah. He's definitely an early candidate right now. But we're going to deep dive into something because apparently this news cycle this week was full of Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant quotes from a random Kevin Durant interview. And I know how me and you both feel about Kevin Durant. I just saw today, like, God knows I've been watching the NBA since 1992. Sometimes you forget things. And I saw today, like, Kevin Durant's been in the league for 16 years. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's been that long? Like, this dude's almost been playing in the NBA for 20 years. Like, that's insane to even think about his longevity. He's actually coming towards the end of his career. Let's just be honest with it. His best years are probably behind him, not ahead of him. But I want to deep dive into this because he said some very interesting things. He, of course, addressed the trade request that didn't go anywhere. He addressed the leadership thing, which me and you've talked about before. He addressed that people shouldn't expect the Nets to win just because he's on the court. Before we deep dive into each part, where do you see Kevin Durant in his NBA career right now? Do you think Kevin Durant is a top 5 player, or do you think he's just blending in at this point?
I think Kevin Durant is a top 5 player if he's on a team that has a chance to win a championship. Despite what people think, Brooklyn doesn't have a chance of winning a championship. Not in my eye. If Kevin Durant's on the right team, what he brings to the table is so undeniable. But more and more, I see him and Anthony Davis as one and the same. They're on the court and they can do everything you want to see on the fantasy stat sheet. But are you gaining wins? Are your teammates better? Can you bring a W home by yourself? They can't do that. Anthony Davis can't even do it with LeBron James. So Kevin Durant is that. Kevin Durant is an amazing scorer and basketball player, but by himself, I don't think he can get you wins. We've seen it in the playoffs, and we're seeing it early in the NBA season because there's nobody else there right now. So I think he's a very special scorer, but like I've always said, he's the greatest role player. He needs to be like the number 3 guy down the line to get your buckets at this point in his career. Like you think LeBron needs to be the 3rd option, right? Or when Westbrook was in the starting lineup, you said how they needed to play. It was like LeBron needed to be the 3rd option, right? Yeah. It's like Kevin Durant needs to be that, I think, at this point. But his team is demanding more because they don't have anything, which he so eloquently stated himself. But the problem with KD is it's never his fault. It's never been his fault. And no matter what he has to say to make it not his fault, that's what he'll say. Because we've heard him describe himself in both leadership light and without being a leader. We've seen him be on a team with championship aspirations that needed a leader, OKC. They fell short against Golden State, and then you go to Golden State when you had a chance to beat them. Had you just been a better leader, probably. and then you want to leave Golden State because you proved something to yourself or to whoever else. Also, you already got your MVP. You, in your eyes, Kevin Durant's eyes, you have everything that you wanted, and you've proved everything. So while you're there, you're stating it's Steph Curry's team. You're not a leader. You don't want to be a leader. You're saying all these things while you're there. It's not like people are making these things up about you. You literally stated them. But yet there's issues, and you want to walk. So you go to Brooklyn, and you make the situation you want. That's the problem with this whole thing. Him blaming Steve Nash, him asking for a trade, all of it. If you had just got traded there without wanting to do your own thing, like they built that situation, him and Kyrie. They talked. They said, "Where do you want to go?" Kyrie says, "Brooklyn." KD said, "That's fine." They go there. They meet with management. They say, "We want this amount of power, this amount of freedom." Kyrie openly said, "We don't really need a coach." But apparently, KD had a nice relationship with Steve Nash for a minute while they were in Golden State, and so I think they came up with Steve Nash, right? That became their scapegoat. But make no mistake, they were in charge of that decision. Outside of like maybe some role players, they were in charge of most of the decision making there. So in my eyes, you have to take responsibility for all the problems. Don't ask for a trade early. Write it out. But he's not a leader, so a leader shouldn't have. If you're not a leader, I shouldn't think of him in that regard, right? But then he wants to come out and say, critique what a leader is, as if he's claiming to be one. But the way he words it in the interview and everything, it's like he's choosing his words carefully, and he's always pushing the blame off of himself. But he's the LeBron here. If we're gonna knock LeBron all the time for forcing decisions and forcing this and that, then we have to do the same with KD, except KD hasn't had any success doing it on his own. And then he wants to go and blame everybody. He's not doing anything new. He's doing what I've said he's done for most of the time after he received his MVP, because as you like to say, he showed his true colors after that, the way he turned on the media and how he was before that. Yeah. Everything he's done is very well documented. And so now even his highest supporters are turning on him because he said some outrageous shit. And the thing is, the one about his teammates, that's the worst part. Because in my eyes, you can't lead a team, or you can't even be the best player on the team, even if you don't want to be the leader and have any success if you're going to knock your teammates. It's the same reason why Ben Simmons lost all confidence in Philly, because the coach said he didn't know if he could win with it. Kevin Durant just said he doesn't know if he can win with the whole fucking team. Kyrie can't stay out of the news. Whether or not we agree or don't agree with it, he's not there right now, and it's always a sideshow with Kyrie. So you're getting that back at some point, but is that going to translate to wins? Maybe, maybe not. But I know one thing, Kevin Durant's not going to take the responsibility for it.
Yeah. I have been notoriously called very hard on players. Like, people say, you're so hard on players, you know. I will say this. Kevin Durant has entered my list of one of the most overrated players I've ever seen in my life. And here's why. Yes, he won 2 championships with the Golden State Warriors. Yes, he had 2 good playoff matchups with LeBron James. I'll give him credit for that. Kevin Durant has never put a team on his back and won a championship by himself. It hasn't happened. LeBron has done it. Kobe has done it. Michael has. All the greats have done it. Stephen, forgive me. Kevin Durant has never done it. As you said, he's always been like the third option, you know, the role player where he could kind of blend in and not take the heat if it was to fail.
He'll drop his 30.
Yeah, he'll get you 30 to 35. That's it. That's it. And it won't be too many assists in there on most nights. That's it. This has been a spectacular downfall. And the ironic part is it was supposed to be the Knicks. And the Knicks pretty much said, no, we're not going to give you guys all of this off-the-court power. And then they decided to go to Brooklyn. Imagine if this was New York. Like, New York finally did something right.
And it's funny because they haven't had a lot of success either, but at least they didn't have the shit storm that was the Nets. This is the best decision I've seen the Knicks make. I didn't even think about it like that.
Yes.
Kudos to the Knicks for avoiding this trade wreck.
But so I'm gonna put some of the interview up on screen that Chris Haynes of the Bleacher Report was able to drop. All right. So this was Kevin Durant's. I'm just gonna read the first half of the quote. His quote on the trade request, and was it difficult to ask for a trade out of Brooklyn after we saw everything go to hell, which we rightfully predicted it would. Kevin Durant says, it wasn't difficult at all to request a trade because it was about ball. I went to them and was like, yo, I don't like how we are preparing. I don't like shoot-arounds. I like practices. I need more. I want to work more on shit. Hold me accountable. Get on my ass in film if that's going to get you to get on everybody else's head. I want to do more closeouts. I want to work on more shell drills at practice. Let's be abundantly clear. This is a total contradiction of why he came to Brooklyn in the first place. Let's be abundantly clear. If he wanted this, you got San Antonio. You got Miami. You got other franchises who are tough on their players and hold their players accountable. You could have looked at those franchises, but you went to Brooklyn so you could have all the freedom in the world to do what you want. The two things don't coincide with each other. So, like you said, as much as we knock LeBron James for some of his off-the-court decisions and management decisions, we have to give Kevin Durant that same energy, because this is LeBron James like. You say one thing, you feel a little heat, and now you come back and say something else that totally contradicts what you said the first time, because words and actions are two completely different things, because your actions show that you didn't want to be held accountable. But now that shit has hit the fan, now you're like, oh yeah, I want to be held accountable. No. It doesn't go both ways. So, Bryce, do you think Kevin Durant is a false prophet?
Oh yeah, I thought he's been that for a very long time. So I was just thinking about this too. It's like, it's also, I don't know what he's fishing for or what he wants, what reaction he wants out of people by making these comments. But I'll say this, for him having so much power over the situation that he's currently in, what was the point of leaving Golden State? If all these things are true, if this is what you wanted, right? If what he's saying right now is what he wanted, the only thing he said now is that he's having so much fun playing basketball, right? He's having so much fun losing and being the leader that nobody wants him to be, even though they need him to be. Why did you leave Golden State? What was the point of it all? If this is what you're saying to be true, there's no reason to leave, because they had everything you wanted right there. So it's all confusing. It's hard to feel bad for him, or it's hard to believe him if you followed him in the past, because he contradicts himself a lot. And at this point, I'm over it. And he's getting older. The stats are going to start to fall more and more. In a few years, it's not going to be as big of an issue anymore. So that's what's going to happen.
I know the leadership thing was very not necessarily personal, but really had both of us like, what the hell is this dude talking about? He doesn't want to be a leader, during the Golden State era. So for him now to come out and drop this quote on leadership that he dropped was another contradiction that Kevin Durant has had. So I'm gonna read this too, because there's a couple of points I want to really get into.
I will say the wording is odd, because he never claims actual leadership. He just says that these things are said about him, and then he questions them in a way that's he's kind of dancing around it. You know what I mean? But the initial reaction is he's saying he's a leader. That's how I think most people felt. Yeah.
So here's Kevin Durant questioning people who are saying he wasn't a leader, but he was like, I'm not a leader, question mark. What the fuck does that mean? A lot of people say I'm not a leader because I didn't tell Kyrie to get vaccinated. Come on. Or I didn't condemn Kyrie for leaving, leaving the team, going out and living his life. I'm not about to tell a grown-ass man what he can and can't do with his own life and dissect his views or how he thinks about shit. I want to be crystal clear with what I'm about to say. Because again, this is coming from the guy that says he likes to have accountability and stuff like that. There's two types of leadership. There's the vocal leader and there's the quiet leader who says, I lead by example. If you're a part of a team and you have a very important piece of the team, now don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about vax versus anti-vax. All I'm saying is that as the quote unquote leader, the conversation should have been had. So this tells me you didn't even talk to Kyrie about the situation to see, which way Kyrie was leaning. You just let him do his thing. That is damning to me. And I think that could be part of the reason, as we all said, James Harden was like, oh, this is a shit show. I'm out. Because this quote tells me he didn't even talk to Kyrie Irving about this and say, hey, man, as a team, let's discuss this. It's not that I'm trying to big boy you or I'm trying to get you to feel the way that I feel, but as a part of this team, we need to at least discuss this. And I think that's the most damning part about this quote. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yes, as part of making Kevin Durant look bad as a leader, I think that's the most damning portion of it because, well, that and actually naming his teammates, that part's pretty rough on me. Like when I heard that, I had like a jerk reaction. I was like, what? This though, it's like you said, it's not like you're trying to change the guy's mind on how he lives his life or whatever, but you're part of a basketball team. And part of that is trying to win games. That is your job.
Right.
If you want to benefit all the rest of the parts of your job, then you have to take responsibility for the things you don't do right as well. Like you can't have it both ways. And him not talking to Kyrie or seeming like they didn't even have that conversation. As the leader of that team, that is damning. Yeah. And if you and Kyrie are leaders or co-captains in your eyes, whatever, you still have that conversation.
Yeah.
You still have that conversation. You don't have to be Batman, Robin. You can both be Batman. Batman's going to have that fucking conversation with Batman.
Right, right.
They're not going to – it's like, okay, well, I get it now. Let's move forward. We had that conversation. But to not have it at all, that's a little wild.
Right.
And if I'm Kyrie, I think that looks bad on him too. Because if I'm Kyrie, I don't want people to just think something blind about me. I'm going to have that conversation with the other leader, even if he doesn't come to me. Mm-hmm. They both lead or don't lead, whatever they want to say. They do it in a weird way. It's not conducive to winning basketball games.
No, it's not, and that should be the end goal.
Yes, that's what we're talking about here. NBA.
One of the things that we talked about years ago, I don't remember the exact specifics of it, but one of the things that we talked about years ago when this team came together, because of course they came together first and then James Harden joined them, was that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving had already won NBA championships. They're not going to give it their all every night because they still have that to fall back on. James Harden was the odd man out because he had never won one. And so I'm pretty sure part of that was with James Harden being there for the very brief time that he was there was like, he's looking around and like, some nights these dudes ain't even trying. You're just going out there going through the motions. And I'm sure that rubbed Harden the wrong way too, because when you have two guys of that caliber that can always fall back and be like, well, if we lose, I got my chip. It's okay. I just think it was a bad mix because they're not going to give 110% that we like to see every night. And let's be realistic. no NBA player gives 110% every night. But God damn it, if the average player is giving 80, right now Kevin Durant is giving like 70. When if he could give 80 to 85, they'll be in the top 3 right now. But he's not going to do that
Well,
because he has.
that's like what set Jordan apart is
Mhm.
maybe he did give it 110%
Mhm.
every single night. But
Mhm.
I'd like to ask James Harden on a side note. I was thinking about this, what he thought playing with KD was like in OKC when they were young compared to what it was like when they were older, because because OKC KD hadn't won a championship yet.
Right.
I would have liked
Right.
to have known like what it was like in the locker room and how he was then, and if he was the same, you know.
Right. No, that's a great question. That is an absolutely fantastic question. James Harden, if you listening, drop a comment, let us know.
But while he's
And
in the
we
club, while he's in the club, he's listening to Hardwood. Yeah.
right. Look, we'll give you an invite to come on. No, that's a fantastic question though, and because there is a stark difference in players. I mean, we see it all the time when players win a championship, then they start feeling themselves and just don't give a shit anymore. I think some of that also happened in Brooklyn as well. And then to get to the quote about the teammates, which Kevin Durant so eloquently said, I mean no disrespect, but we it just came off so bad. So look at our starting lineup. Sumner, forgive me, Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris, Nick Claxton, and me. It's not disrespect. But what are you expecting from that group? You expect us to win because I'm out there. So if you're watching from that lens, you're expecting us to play well because number 7 is out there. Do you think we would have ever heard like Michael Jordan or even to a certain extent Kobe Bryant or even LeBron James say some shit like this?
Not say it. They might think it. They might think, but that's the difference. You can't. It's so much of like to these athletes is confidence. You can't. You can't come out and say that. It was like I compared it to the Philly situation. Maybe Ben Simmons could have climbed out of that hole until Doc Rivers said he didn't know if he could win with him. That was as bad because the indecision was there, and that killed whatever little
Yeah,
confidence Ben Simmons had left.
yeah.
If your team's already playing bad, this is only going to make it worse. I played like little league baseball for a while, and I was on some bad teams. And every year, I thought, wow, another bad team. This is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But even as like an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, you know not to say to your team, "This is the worst team I've ever been." Look at my first baseman. This is terrible. He can't even catch the ball. You don't. As a kid, I knew you don't do that to your own teammates, right?
Yeah.
Because you're a team. Kobe, all those guys, you can be intense in the practice court. You can be intense in the game, but you don't come out and say, "I don't think I can win with you." You have to pass the ball. You have to play as a team. Otherwise, you're not going to win anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. He can have those feelings, honestly. But as the leader of the team, you don't come out. You don't come out and say that. I've been on teams before, and I wholeheartedly believe you don't do that, because after that, I'm not playing for you anymore. Like,
Yeah.
not really. Everybody on that team is playing for checks right now,
Mm-hmm.
not to win games.
There's no enforcers on that team as well. The enforcer thing is kind of a thing, huh?
They're trash, and they're only going to get worse, I think.
Well, yeah, the enforcer thing is kind of a thing of the past, but that's when you need one of those Udonis Haslam types just to see him in the locker room and have a conversation, a man to man conversation, because that needs to be had after a quote like this. And I don't think those guys in Brooklyn have enough balls to have that conversation with Kevin Durant. But I'm just gonna keep it real. He likes to curse a lot in his interviews and stuff. I've seen him curse on Twitter and stuff. That doesn't make you a tough guy. Like, no one's afraid of you because you can curse. Like, who gives a shit? I think someone needs to, one of his teammates need to kind of like him up a little bit. But I don't think there's no one on that team that's able to do that, because for him to freely talk like that about his teammates is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's bullshit.
Well, let's be real. Like, you don't even need an enforcer. Like, Haslam's there to instill a sense of heat culture throughout multiple teams. You don't even need him if you have a guy like Jimmy Butler at the time. You know what I mean? Like, to hold
Yeah.
people accountable. Haslam's there in case Jimmy Butler isn't there. You know, there's a culture thing in Miami, and that's why they have Haslam. But if you have a Butler, if you have a, I'm trying to think of like, Giannis or whoever who's gonna really hold people accountable.
Even
You know,
LeBron. LeBron.
Well, I was gonna say LeBron, but then you got Anthony Davis on this team. So how much? And I was thinking though, how many leaders? You got Steph, probably,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How many are out there? I don't even think of Chris Paul in that. That's because he hasn't won anything, right? So
But Chris Paul.
how many leaders are really holding their teams accountable and are actually having success? There's not a lot.
Yeah, I will give Chris Paul a pass on this because I have seen him hold his teammates accountable. So Chris Paul, LeBron James to a certain extent. I mean, we named the right guys.
Yeah.
Does that always translate into success? No. But one thing we haven't heard is people like we haven't heard like Chris Paul, LeBron James railroad their teammates like Kevin Durant has done. Like we've never heard of that before. Excuse me. But I believe if one of those players were with Kevin Durant, they would pull him aside and have that conversation with him. But he's in this bubble right now. Kyrie's not going to have the conversation with him. Kyrie doesn't give a shit. He has his own problems he has to deal with. So
If
he's
they
in a
would have
bubble.
they would have talked during the backs problem.
I'm sorry, what was that?
If they were gonna talk, they would have talked back then for the vax issues. They
Right.
set it up
Right.
then. They weren't going to talk. So why would they
Right.
talk now?
So you in essence had three players, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, who has never held themselves or teammates accountable. And it was just a bad mix. And like I said, James Harden got it there quick. He was like, fuck this. This ain't for me. And now he's in Philly where he's shielded by Embiid and Doc Rivers because they'll take all the heat before he gets it. So that's a good spot for him to be in because he's at the end too. He's not going to change his ways. Do you see a place where Kevin Durant could go to kind of change his career trajectory?
He'd have to be a savior. It'd have to be like Washington or the other New York. I feel like New York should be off limits to you.
Yeah, the Knicks. Yeah.
Honestly, in a place that he could fit in at and kind of maybe fall into the back a little bit more is Miami. That's not a joke. That's not a joke.
Yeah.
That's for real. Maybe Toronto. Something like, you know what I mean? Like a cuffed team or a team that he can really lift up and push forward, like what Kawhi did in Toronto. If he went to Washington, Utah, someplace like that, and just pushed a team over the top, that he could redeem himself through winning and just shutting the fuck up for a while.
Mm.
But I don't think he wants that.
Yeah, the Miami ship has sailed because Brooklyn wanted the house for him. Ironically, he's from the DC area, so that would kind of be a good thing for him to kind of go back home. I'm gonna throw an oddball out there now. Of course, he's not gonna lead this team to a championship, but if he was to go back to OKC, I think that would kind of revitalize him a little bit and kind of change the public opinion about him because this interview did nothing for his legacy at all. If anything, it made it a lot worse.
It got worse.
And
I don't think. Sorry.
No, you're good. Excuse me. And it exposed. I think what it did was for the few people remaining that didn't know who the real Kevin Durant was. I think this showed them. The real Kevin Durant. And it's sad because we've seen this for years, and now it's on Front Street. So it's really sad. What were you going to say?
No, you pretty much said it. Like even his own fans, like the people who have defended him for years. Even I think this was like one of the last straws for them. Yeah. You can be a fan of him as a basketball player, but defending him as anything else, I think, is kind of out the window now.
Absolutely. I do want to give a little more love here before we wrap up today because I'm looking at standings right now. There's another team that's kind of hot in the East right now, the Indiana Pacers. They're 9-6 and they've won 4 games, and they're 4 straight games. In their last 10 games, they are 8-2. And I believe, didn't they just play the Magic last night?
Yeah, they had a back-to-back as well. I forget who they
Okay.
played the night before. They
Mhm.
beat the Magic by a point last night. Yeah, they're just a fast young team with a couple really good scorers there, and they're hitting their 3-point shots. Buddy Hield is a great addition to that team. Halliburton plays with a lot of intensity and has that team running well. And then their rookie is what is
Yeah, he's making
playing
some
great,
noise.
So they've got something special there too.
I'm definitely gonna have to watch them. I don't remember when they're playing Miami again, but I'm definitely gonna have to watch the Pacers again. It kind of, I'm a huge Tyrese Halliburton fan. Oh, Miami plays Cleveland today. Okay, I'm a huge Tyrese Halliburton fan, so I do like watching him play.
The
Um,
Magic, I've seen something odd I didn't notice before. Not only did we have just a back-to-back against Indiana,
mhm.
we played Chicago then Indiana, but Monday we play Indiana again,
Mhm.
and then our next 2 games are against Philly.
Oh wow,
At
oh
Philly,
wow,
both of them. I just
yeah,
never
yeah.
seen like two where we play 2 teams 4 games in a row like back to back like that.
Yes, it's been wacky scheduling this season, and it's a lot more parity in the league this season as well. Um, But yeah, we're gonna have to keep our eyes on the Indiana Pacers because I didn't think they would be as good as they are currently right now. So
It's a
um,
great time to be watching any team really because there's so many middle of the pack teams right now. Like there's
mhm.
standout teams, but their records are somewhat muddled. So it's like everybody is in a dogfight right now. It's exciting. Even some, even the bad teams are getting some good wins against certain teams. So it's been a very interesting season
Yeah,
so far.
like for example, in the Eastern Conference, we have 3 teams in the play-in because we actually have 2 ties, but we have 3 teams in the play-in that we thought would be in the top 4. Philadelphia, Brooklyn, and Miami are all in the play-in. Chicago's not even in the play-in. Like it's insane that.
Mhm. Chicago's having some real issues. People think
Yeah,
Billy Donovan could get fired soon.
yeah, and even
Zach
Toronto.
LaVine came out and criticized him. Did you see that?
I missed that. No, I didn't see that. Forgive me.
I don't know if it was in the Magic game or the game they had before, but I think Donovan didn't have Levine in like some of the last minutes.
Mhm.
And after they lost, Levine said something along the lines of, like I wasn't in the final few minutes. It's like, do you think that would have had a difference on us losing the game? That's up to you to decide. But
That
it
was
was a
the
little telling.
that was the overtime game.
Um, I don't like I said I don't know if it was after the Magic loss. The Magic loss didn't
Got
get.
it.
I went to sleep on that game, so I'm not actually sure. But it was after one of their losses recently. It seemed like Levine's not happy with that coach right now.
Okay. Well, we shall see. We shall see what happens. We've already had one coach get let go, so we'll see how many more get let go. I predict we're gonna have 2 coaching changes, 2 more coaching changes. I'll put it like that. So Billy Donovan maybe one because yeah, Chicago's underwhelming right now. I mean Miami is too, but we know Spoelstra's not going anywhere. But just to put it into perspective, like as bad, and I'm not gonna say as bad as the East is right now because it's just parity throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago's only 7 games out of first place, and they're 12th in the East right now. Miami's 6 games out of first place, so it's still kind of tight, if that makes sense. So a lot of players are going to move around. One more thing before we leave, I'm going to give some love to the Atlanta Hawks. Also, they're 3rd in the East right now. Like, what's going on?
Dude, last night, I think Trey hit a game winner, from like middle, like not the logo, but like halfway between logo and three, and it went in. Buzzer went off. He jumped right in front of the other team's bench and was just like clowning.
I watched a little bit of that game. I didn't finish it, but I watched like the first half of that game. I should have finished it, but I was wore out yesterday. But yeah, so the East, there's some exciting things going on in the NBA as a whole, but the East, especially seeing these young teams. So, like for example, Boston, Milwaukee, Atlanta, Cleveland, Indiana, and Washington are all in the top 6. 4 of those teams are exceptionally young. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just like it is the winds of change, my man.
If you had to pick right now, gut feeling, who your finals teams?
Wow. Who are my final teams right now? I'm going to go with Milwaukee, and I'm going to go with – I'm going to have to say Phoenix. I'm going to have to say it. They're going to lose again, but they're going to lose, but it's going to be Milwaukee and Phoenix right now. Yeah.
Got you.
As of right now, that's who it will be, because I don't believe in Memphis. I don't believe in Portland, even though Portland's doing well. I don't believe in them making deep playoff runs. Utah's number one in the West. I don't believe in them making a deep playoff run, because with this version of the team, they got to feel some hurt. I think Phoenix could still get there as long as they don't see Dallas.
That's what I was going to say, because if I had to guess, I would say Milwaukee, Phoenix. But I don't think – there's two teams, though. I think Phoenix would have a problem with Dallas, obviously.
Yeah.
But if healthy, I don't know if Phoenix could beat Denver in a 7-game. And I don't know exactly where Denver is right now, but I think they would give them a problem if they're healthy in the playoffs. But if they had to play Dallas, Luka's going to shit on them because he's already done. He already knows he can do it. So they're going to lose. So we could see like a Denver or a Dallas or whoever come out of the West, or it could be Phoenix again. But I think Milwaukee is like my pick to come out the East right now.
Look, Denver's number 6 right now. They still haven't hit their stride yet. They're still learning to get those pieces back together. Here's the funny thing. So, yeah, Phoenix can beat anyone on any given night, but Dallas, if the playoffs was to start today, they would play Dallas in the first round.
It's good if we can save it last year.
So, on that note, we're going to wrap it up. So, please like, subscribe, and share our content on YouTube at Hardwood Nation. Follow us on Twitter at Hardwood Nation and on Facebook at Hardwood Nation. We are out. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.